I work the hours when a hospital stops, pretending it's a building and admits it's a body. The day thinks everything runs on schedules. The night knows better. The place has a pulse, a blood pressure, and moods. ED is a drum you hear in the floor. ICU is a cello that hums through the walls. Radiology is a metronome with a cough. We, the transporters, are arteries. You don't notice us until something downstream gets cold. My shift starts at 22:45 with a handoff performed like a ritual. Day shifter already leaning like gravity got personal, a whiteboard crowded with rooms and colors, a quick finger listing MRI, first for 4 West, and the sacred passing of the master key to service elevator 4. There's a rhythm to the prep I can do with one hand. Check the O2 cylinder on the striker stool, test the powered stretcher battery, kick the gurney pedal so it goes flat when a scanner tunnel demands humility. My phone, the zebra brick that marries barcodes to bureaucracy, wakes into teletracking, a queue sorted by who will yell first. It chirps like a sparrow that's unionized. The building upstairs is glass and art that looks like maps of weather no one ever had. Underneath is the world we actually live in. Freight corridors with painted arrows to wings that died 2 renovations ago. Badge readers that beep in the same tired key. Stainless elevator walls polished to mirror the part of your face that least deserves a close-up. The smell is Virex and dust warmed by ballasts. It settles into your clothes and becomes the cologne of people who carry other people. On paper, night shift is quiet. In reality, it's a list of verbs. Roll, turn, scan, wait, sign, lift, steer, check, knock. You learn how far a squeaky wheel can squeak before a nurse offers you WD-40 from a drawer that also stores chocolate. You learn which elevator prefers a double tap to wake, and which will open before your thumb touches the button like it's been listening for your shoes. There's a second nervous system the public never sees, the house phones. Not the cell phones and zebra radios. The landlines bolted to nurse stations and wall plates. The red courtesy phones in stairwells. The beige house phones in clean utility rooms that smell like saline and printer heat. They speak in a ring old enough to be a ringtone's grandfather, a bud brrt you feel in your jaw. Telecom keeps them alive because emergencies want wires. The phone grid is older than our newer problems and more stubborn than our latest solutions. Telecom is 3 people and a PBX rack that hums like a sleeping hive. The oldest tech is Monica, who wears her key ring like a sheriff star and can find an extension by touch on a 66 block in a closet lit by a single bulb and prayer. She calls the phones house ears. She says if the Wi-Fi forgets us, the ear's still here. Weeks ago, Orthopedics moved into a new pavilion. There were speeches about patient experience and glass and sunlight. The move left behind a closed floor, North 5, sealed in plastic, negative air snoring like a giant cat. We still call it ortho out of habit, the same way the body remembers a limb after it's gone. Renumbering came with it. IT renamed rooms like a witness protection program. Teletracking learned the aliases eventually, the way a stepdad's last name sticks after enough holidays. The phones had to change, too. Monica and a facilities guy named Ray. Mustache, so neat it looks proofread. Spent a week rewriting the house's address book. Extensions that once rang a desk on North 5 now pointed to a cloud voicemail that promises to forward to someone with a pulse. The old ortho front desk number, 47,012, was supposed to be retired, commemorated only in a spreadsheet with too many tabs. The first night this story noticed me, nothing else did. I moved a chest pain patient from ED to CT, watched the chiller make breath white in radiology, and accepted a cold fry from a tech with sane eyes. On 4 West, a unit clerk thanked me with a real thank you, the rarest medical supply. ICU wanted a 2-person lift because the wall oxygen hissed like a busy mind, and they've learned to ask for help before it becomes a write-up. At 013, the house phone at 3 East rang, and then rang again after the nurse picked it up and heard air. I was by the station waiting for a wheelchair chart. The second ring is always the one you notice. The first ring has plausible deniability. Lily, a night nurse whose handwriting could be framed, frowned at the unhelpful dial tone. She was the kind of person who says, like she intends to file a complaint with physics. The digital display on the phone's tiny screen showed a number, green and unforgiving, 47012. You still have Ortho mapped to you? I asked. Ortho moved, she said, not scolding me so much as scolding the universe for recursion. She pressed a button that spied on the last caller. The phone politely told us in 5 front desk. Lily hung up. The phone rang again. She answered with her nurse voice, calm, specific, slightly amused. 3 East, this is Lily. Air. A distant clack like cutlery in another room. Then a whisper of phrase, almost shy, hold the door. The line died. We looked at each other like we were the last 2 people at a party, and someone else had just knocked. Security? She asked. If it's a prank, it's a nostalgic one, I said, but I key my radio anyway. Security, this is transport on 3 East. House phones getting calls from North 5 extension 47012. Caller said, hold the door. Hale came back, the overnight lead whose voice turns chaos into policy. Copy. North 5 is sealed. If a door needs holding up there, it's metaphorical. We'll check Stair 2 sensor. Standby. I put my elbows on the counter because leaning is a night shift technique. The house breathed. Service 4 opened without being asked. At 0:20, teletracking chirped a job that didn't belong in a world organized by morning emails. Pick up. North 5, Bay 3, to lab stat. The zebra uses stat like a child uses now, loudly and often. But there was no North 5, Bay 3. There wasn't even a North 5 that owned letters anymore. I cleared the job as invalid address and told the air, not tonight. The air was unconvinced. Halet idiot. Stair 2 supervisory again, she said. Plastic is breathing enthusiastic. No one human. If Telecom is awake, we'll ask them to exorcise an extension. Monica was awake. Telecom lives in a closet the size of a chapel in the basement. She sounded like she was drinking coffee that used to be a solid. 47,012 shouldn't ring anywhere, she said. We parked it on a mailbox that loops to the North Nurses Hub. No live set assigned. If you're seeing caller ID, the PBX is misremembering. Phones misremember? I asked the radio. Everything misremembers, Monica said. Paper, people, buildings, phones. I'll check the 66 block for a cross-connect someone loved too much to cut. At 00:43, Lily's phone rang again. The LED said 47012. We all looked at it like it had said our names in a voice we used to trust. Lily answered, 3 East. Air. Then 2 words, lazy with fatigue. Hold door. She said, which door? Because nurses never waste a syllable if they can make it into a task. The line died with the soft click of a choice elsewhere. I rolled a patient to X-ray to keep the night from thinking I was only listening. The hallway between imaging and ED is a temperature compromise nobody signed. Radiology breathes cold like an apology. ED smells like bleach after an argument. In the piece of corridor between, your scrubs learn to be both. At 1:05, Service 4 took me to ICU, where a guy with a bad heart told me about a dog that used to know when seizures were coming by putting his head in the man's lap. He said the dog died. I nodded the nod that says I intend to hear your story exactly to the end and not pretend I can fix it. Back at 3 East, Lily had a list and a face. For more calls, she said. All from 47012. Twice it breathed. Twice it said, hold the door. The second time, there was clunking like a cart or a gurney hitting a threshold. You know that sound? I knew the sound. Gurney casters negotiate thresholds like lawyers. The bump has a rhythm you can feel in your palms. Ray from facilities arrived to help security look like a plan. He had a headlamp and the aura of a man who likes secrets that require Allen keys. Monica joined on speakerphone, her voice a little tinny like all wires do after midnight. We went to North 5, the plastic side. The badge reader invited security and raised one eyebrow at the rest of us. Inside, tape was architecture. The nurse station had been relieved of its monitors and its clutter and the part of its soul that belongs to Candy. The house phone remained, beige, coiled cord hemming its virtues, bolted to the wall like an oath. No power in the half of the floor we were on. Just that red exit sign that outlasts everything. Ray held two leads against the phone line, and the phone rang in his hand like a fish in air. "Still live?" he said. "Shouldn't be." He pulled the line, and the ring stopped. He let go, and the phone rang again, BRRT from nowhere. He frowned like a man who just found out he's allergic to magic. Monica asked for the jack number. Ray read it off. "That jack is supposed to be parked to the PBX dummy," Monica said. "We move it Tuesday. I'll check the block." We listened to her type with decisive fingers. The cross-connect is gone. Someone did their job. The PBX shows that DN as unassigned. If it rings, I don't know who taught it how. Hale pressed the hook switch on the North 5 phone with one finger like testing a tooth. The ringing stopped on our side and started on Lily's at 3 East. Lily answered, and we heard her through the radio. Her voice doubled by physics. 3 East. From a North 5 handset in Hale's hand, dead, disconnected, not connected to a brain we recognized, came the answer, distant and identical, "Hold the door." We all looked at the beige phone like it had told a joke, only it found funny. Hale put the handset back, gentle as if it were an infant that had surprised itself with a sentence. We left the floor because the building had decided to be a haunted house and also because jobs were piling. Between 120 and 150, I was a courier with a purpose, ED to CT, CT to ED, a two-person from ICU, a wheelchair to the loop where the night air smells like cigarettes, and a weather app that's given up. The zebra chirped assignments with machine shear. I signed the little signature rectangle with my tired stylus, the digital equivalent of "I was here, we all were." At 1:58, a house phone rang in a service corridor near materials. No desk, no nurse, just a beige device bolted to paint that knew too much about carts. I answered because answering is a reflex the night teaches you. "Service corridor," I said, which is not how you answer a phone if you want to sound like you know what you're doing. "Hold the door," the voice said. Not mine, not Lily's, not a person I could name. A woman, breath short, words pressed, the syllables like she had learned them as a spell. "Which door?" I asked. There was a pause, and then a sound, the soft shock of an elevator door wanting to be stopped by a hip. If you move people for a living, you know that sound. The line died so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I walked back towards Service 4 with the precise, unhurried pace of a person who has decided not to surprise the universe. The car opened before I arrived. I put my hand across the threshold, palm out like I was holding a line in place. Nothing dramatic happened. The elevator waited. An empty cart somewhere clattered in sympathy. I had the feeling you get in a room after someone has just left. The concern that you might have missed something you were supposed to witness. Day shift asks, when you try to tell them about nights, "But what happened?" Like you're telling a story with a villain and a verdict. Nights don't resolve. They rhythm. The house phones kept calling for 3 nights. Not constant. Not enough to justify a maintenance window and a banner. Just enough to become a ritual. 013, 043, 158, and almost always 211. Always from 47,012 or from N5 front desk, even after Monica swore she had erased it. Sometimes the caller said the thing. Sometimes it breathed like a person learning to breathe without help. Sometimes, with the politeness of a ghost or a recording, it said nothing at all. We tried experiments. Monica killed the PBX route to the retired DN and watched the switch rack glower. Ray opened a Telecom closet on 2 and pointed at a 66 block like a map to a child at home. He pulled a cross-connect with the delicacy of a man unsoldering a memory. The phone still rang. Hale stood in the old ortho stairwell with a radio and a second person and the kind of patient security cultivates the way gardeners cultivate roses. And at 2:11, she knocked twice on the red courtesy phone box with 2 knuckles. No answer. The house phone on 3 East rang. Lily answered. "Hold the door." Telecom has words for this. Foreign voltage, which sounds like a rumor. Induction, a ghost that is electrical and law-abiding. Phantom ring, which is the best and worst phrase in the dictionary. Monica said, Sometimes disconnected copper near live copper will pick up enough to make a set lie about having a call. She said it like she was giving a poem something to wear to work. On the fourth night, the calls changed. At 0:27 a.m., nurse and PACU picked up their desk phone to call pharmacy and got a call already in progress. A ward clerk's voice came through the line like a person on a tape delay. Hold the door. She told us later she thought it was a training recording. They sometimes play code drills through the overhead. And then she realized the voice was not familiar, not official, not from a speaker she could see. At 1:12, a house phone rang in the Moore corridor. There's one near the badge door, for reasons nobody could write a policy about without making people sad. And when I answered, out of reflex, the voice said, softer, less certain, hold the door. Which door? I asked again because repetition is the key to the whole building. The line clicked, and the red LED on cooler 3 thought about sulking down a degree and then didn't. By then, I believed 2 impossible things and 1 sensible one. 1. Impossible. A retired extension had learned how to be alive without permission. 2. Also impossible. The house was replaying a moment that matched no schedule. 3. Sensible. Someone once wanted a door held at exactly 2:11 on North 5, and the building remembered. Monica found a clue where clues like to hide, in an Excel sheet named final_V8_new final. The tab labeled Ortho Move Phones had a comment cell where someone had typed in 10-point font. 47012 moved to temp desk during October outage. Calls rolled to stairwell red phone for code compliance, temporary. Dated last October. Not signed. The word temporary in hospitals enjoys long leases. During a network upgrade, they mapped the front desk to the stairwell courtesy phone, Monica said, for a week. Then they moved it back. But the stairwell liked the attention. We went to that stairwell. North 5, Stair 2. The red phone in its metal case staring like an eye that has witnessed more fire drills than fires. Hale had the keys and the authority that comes from wearing a radio correctly. She opened the box. Inside, the handset hung its weight the way tired people do. The line LED was dark. The tiny label under the cradle said 47012 in faded Sharpie, as if someone wrote it to remember how to forget it later. I reached up and touched the plastic. It was cold. Not refrigerator cold. Outside at night cold. Stupid to notice. We waited, because waiting is diagnostic here. At 2:09, the stairwell breathed. That's the only way to say it. The air pressure shifted a little with the HVAC's idea of courtesy. The red phone's message waiting light flickered once like a coincidence. At 2:11, it did the thing, BRRT, not loud, just correct. Hale let it ring once more, then lifted the handset like a person picking up their own name. Security, she said. This line, we heard it before we believed we had heard it. The sound of a cart or a gurney bumping a threshold somewhere not here. Then a voice, clear as clear, the vowels caught in the teeth of effort. Hold the door. Hale didn't hesitate. She stepped out into the landing and threw her arm against the crash bar to the service corridor, like she had trained for this sentence. The door resisted the way old doors do. She held it like a person holds a decision. Nothing dramatic happened. Copy, she said into the handset, because security writes their part of the script with the pen of policy. The line went dead. The door swung back into her. She stood there breathing like a dancer. She smiled, and it wasn't humor. What did we just do? I asked. Participated, she said. We left the red phone box open for a week. Monica put a butt set on the line and watched voltage flicker like a shy fish. Ray traced the copper behind the wall until it joined a bundle the size of a small tree. He labeled things. He is a person who puts tape on chaos and writes names in neat block letters so other people can tell the difference between fear and procedure. The calls kept coming, less frequent than less. The tone changed sometimes. After a night with too many ED holds and not enough beds, the voice sounded urgent, the way oxygen alarms will sound urgent even in your sleep. After the night a storm made the dock roll up slam like a verdict, the voice said nothing at all, just air and the faintest metallic click of a hook switch that wasn't ours. On the last night it called. If it was the last, You never know you've had the last until you've had 10 more that weren't. It didn't call a desk or a stairwell. It called my zebra. That shouldn't be possible. The zebra can call out to the house, but the house can't call in without a gateway. Monica swore she had turned to stone. Still, at 2:11, my pocket buzzed in a pattern I have associated since orientation with someone has an opinion about your priorities. The screen said, unknown desk set, 47,012. I answered like a person answering themselves. Transport. The voice, it could have been the same. It could have been mine. It could have been the building dreaming. Said soft, almost embarrassed to need, hold the door. I was in the service hall by materials again, near the Moore corridor, the door with the badge reader that sticks in humidity. I palmed it open and put my shoulder to it the way you do when gravity picks a side. The air changed in the small way hospitals are full of, pressure equalizing, temperature picking a mood. Somewhere not far, service 4 opened before my thumb. The zebra screen cleared itself. Teletracking drew a new job and then erased it, half-formed. Pick up, in 5, and then nothing. If you ask me for a satisfying end to the story, I will hand you the kind we put into emails so that people could go to sleep. Telecom identified legacy mapping to a courtesy phone during past renovations. Facilities updated cross-connects. PBX cache cleared. Calls resolved. Everyone likes resolved. It attaches a bow to a thing that never wanted one. If you ask me when I am in the middle of the night and the house is honest, I'll tell you the truth the night paid me for. The building remembers its paths. If a door was held at a certain time on a certain floor, the wires keep the shape of that moment. Copper learns. Doors like being doors. Phones like being ears. An elevator likes opening before I ask because we made a habit together. It isn't haunting, not in the way day shift means. It's routine with a memory. A job that keeps trying to run after you've canceled it, because you ran it so many times that cancel feels rude. We told day shift what they could use. They said, in the tone that files things under night, people say night things. Monica printed a log that made the PBX look guilty. Ray updated a binder, so it would know where to point fingers next time. Hale wrote a report with the phrase no human presence and the word participated tucked where only we knew what it meant. I keep doing the verbs. Roll, turn, scan, wait, sign, lift, steer, check, knock. I passed the stairwell with a red phone, and I touched the case once, lightly, as if to check a pulse. I listened to the house phone, rings the way a parent listens for thunder after the first flash. I hold doors anyway. It's a small thing, a posture against entropy. When the zebra invents a job to a room that lost its name, I clear it and write a note in my paper book because paper, too, is a kind of phone. And every so often, on nights when the dock door bangs its weather, when cooler 3 sulks a degree, when the tube station coughs and a carrier arrives without being sent, at 2:11 a.m. ring will stroll through the hallway, old as a lullaby. If I'm near a door then, I hold it gently, as if someone is about to come through who will never sign their name, and I let the building know he heard it, and that counts.